Good morning. Welcome back to a new class. Today we have a bit of an update. I'll be covering erectile dysfunction today. So this is a condition that affects men of all ages. We'll be looking at why erectile dysfunction happens, how it happens, the need for an erection. That should come to your mind. Why do we need an erection? And then we'll look at how nature and nature's intelligence influences our body's mechanisms in order to understand erectile dysfunction. Mind you, I'll be going into ancient civilization as well as nature's intelligence and dabbling in those realms to help us uncover the reason why we get erectile dysfunction, and that reason, the cause, will tell us how we can help it completely ensure that we have an erection during sex. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, I'm just going to move this here. Let's have a look at what the definition, according to current medical understanding, what erectile dysfunction means, okay? It simply means the inability to maintain or hold, pretty much the same thing, an erection during sex, okay? For sexual performance. That's the somewhat layman definition of erectile dysfunction according to medical terminology. So now we'll look at why we need an erection. So like we discussed last time, the endometriosis, I'm just going to draw the vagina again here. And we understood fertility, etc. in the last class. What happens is when you have an erection, the sperm, so I'll just draw this again. So the vagina, this is the ovaries, fallopian tube, and then we have the uterus over here, okay? And this is the cervix. Remember that small gap between the vagina and the uterus? When you have an erection and the penis goes through the vagina over here, right? And when the ejaculation happens, it happens directly into the uterus, okay? So the reason why this happens is because if the ejaculation was over here around the vagina is actually very acidic. And the environment over here, especially the lower part of the vagina, is super acidic. So the sperm wouldn't survive. When you ejaculate in the vagina, the sperm are essentially going to die very easily due to the high acidic environment of the vagina, which is why an erection is a mechanism, it's a defense mechanism to ensure that the sperm, life force, easily gets placed, or it gets transported into the uterus, okay, over here. The egg is over here, so it's basically a safety mechanism to deposit sperm into the uterus, okay, from another understanding. So defense and safety, okay, just remember these two words, safety. Remember these two words, defense and safety. Now let's move on to understanding the mechanisms of an erection, how an erection happens, and then we'll go into causes of erectile dysfunction. So even if you don't have erectile dysfunction, you can still watch the video. Even if you're a woman, you can still watch the video because you learn about nature's intelligence. You learn about ancient wisdom on how ancient civilizations looked at an erection, a phallus, a life force. Okay, we'll discover all of that together, and it's very interesting. Like if you pay attention through symbolism, through stories, we can actually discover a lot of causes of our current medical conditions today. Okay, so now we'll understand the mechanisms of an erection. Then we'll go into causes. The reason why and the reason how an erection happens is it starts in the brain, okay? The brain is one of the most sexual organs. Brain, you can call it, we can do dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone that is released when you feel, when you see, when you smell, etc. Through the senses, there is sexual stimuli. That's just the brain. So essentially there is a stimuli that through the senses increases or releases dopamine. The brain releases dopamine. Then we have the second part, which is neurotransmitters or signals traveling through the spinal cord into the pelvic nerves. So we have communication from the brain, which is signaling that gets sent down. This is the spinal cord. This is your brain, and this is your pelvic nerve over here. Okay. Essentially, your brain sends a signal down through your spine into your pelvic nerve, and this is the third part, which is the wiring, or pelvic splanchnic. And don't worry about the big words; it's just medical terms, right? Nerves. We have nerves in our pelvic area, and when we get an arousal through the spine, the signal travels to the pelvic area. Then nitric oxide is released. Remember this? NO, okay, nitric oxide, right? And then from nitric oxide, there's another chemical which is released to the help. It's called CGMP. Don't worry about this too much. It's a very minor messenger, but these two essentially work hand in hand to then pump your penis with blood, okay? So through the help of nitric oxide, what happens is your penis, your blood vessels become relaxed. Okay, there's an expansion, there is a dilation of the blood vessels. And because of that, because of the expansion, there is blood that can rush through the penis, ensuring that there is enough rigidity and hardness. The blood stops as soon as the penis expands. So there is a trap and hold mechanism. Inside your penis, there is a trap and hold mechanism. And then when the ejaculation happens, there is a clearing of the blood. And I'll tell you how this happens. I'll just draw like a penis over here. This is like a penis cut in half. And then we have two spongy cylinders, okay? These are like spun cylinders which blood gets filled through. And this is called corpora cavernosa. Okay? Two spongy cylinders that get filled with blood as soon as there is a release of nitric oxide and CGMP. We're just going to put an arrow over here. And this is corpora sponginosum. Spongy. I'm just going to put spongy. This is the bottom of your penis that gets attached to the front part of the penis. Okay. This is not too important. It's just where the sperm and the urine goes through. Okay. So this is where you ejaculate and urinate through. But these two areas are more important because this is where the blood rushes through as soon as there's a relaxation and expansion of the blood vessels. We have the filling of the CC. We're just going to put CC for corpora cavernosa. Then when you ejaculate, right, last part is the finishing. When you ejaculate, there is a pullback of the blood, the clearing of the blood, and that is done through a chemical called PDE5. Again, you don't have to worry about this too much, it's just medical terms. PDE5. Now, if you take pills like Viagra or erection, like stimulation pills, etc., that are available in the pharmacy or whatever, in the markets, what they do is they basically inhibit PDE5. So in erectile dysfunction, what usually happens is there is a very fast movement of the clearing. Nitric oxide gets really quickly, and then the blood gets filled very quickly, okay? But then as soon as the blood gets filled, there is a clearing of the PDE5. When you take Viagra, it's a PDE5 inhibitor. All these medications that help with erectile dysfunction are PDE5 inhibitors, which simply means they stop the clearing. They stop this chemical from releasing in the body to ensure that you maintain your CC, to ensure that you maintain the blood filling of the two spongy cylinders over here. So that's pretty much how an erection happens and why we get erectile dysfunction. We'll go into that now. In summary, it all starts in your brain. And it goes through your spinal cord into your pelvic area. You get an erection that happens very quickly. You get an erection because there is this mechanism which is called the hydraulic sequence, which I'll show you now. A hydraulic system or hydraulic sequence. Okay, so there's a hydraulic sequence. So the first thing that happens is there is a relaxation. Okay, there's a relaxation, and then there's an expansion, expand. Then there is a trap. As soon as the corpora cavernosa is filled up, it's like a balloon, it then presses on the blood vessels behind it, which traps the blood inside. Okay? and then there's a hold, which is essentially the erection, and then there's a clearing, okay, which is the PD E5 getting released. That is essentially the mechanism called hydraulic sequence through which an erection happens. If you're stressed, and this is what happens for a lot of young single men especially during their first time, if you're stressed, you can get performance anxiety, which simply means because you're stressed, you're in the sympathetic nervous system. Remember, we have two nervous systems in our body, our sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is fight or fly. This is when you have to run away from danger, your digestion shuts down, you have a rush of adrenaline in your body, your blood gets pumped through, and you're essentially trying to run away from threat. There is no, like your body can't relax, okay? And there's high levels of cortisol, etc. So that's sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system is when you're relaxed, you can digest food, you're not worried about survival, etc. There's not stress on your body, so you're not essentially in a threat environment, which is why nature ensures that when you're in a threat environment, you only think about survival, so you have this nervous system. But when you're not in a threat environment, that's the only time when you can actually fertilize. Okay? That's the only time when you can feel relaxed, which can ensure that you have this entire process starting. When young men, or even in relationships, men who get pressurized by their partners to perform well, they can get stressed before having intercourse, which is why they can't start this mechanism, and hence they get ED, because they get performance anxiety. They simply can't get hard. Your body and nature ensures that you need to be in a safe, calm, peaceful environment in order to fertilize. Moving on to understanding why men get ED. There are many causes to ED according to the medical theories. First thing is high blood pressure or high cholesterol or high blood sugar. When you have fat, when you have high blood pressure, when you have high sugar, what happens is there can be nerve damage, there can be nerve constriction. Okay, this is one of the main causes that from a medical understanding, one of the main causes of ED is essentially the vasoconstriction. Okay, there's dilation, which is expansion, and then there's vasoconstriction, which is the constricting of blood vessels. One of the biggest indicators of cardiovascular disease, which is heart problems, is ED. So if you have ED, you're more likely to also get, according to the medical term, you're more likely to also get a cardiovascular disease, heart disease, because you may have, again, high cholesterol or fat around your blood vessels that restrict blood. Now moving on to the second cause, it's actually stress. Stress, anxiety, depression. The second biggest cause of ED is mental, it's psychological. And if you're getting morning wood, okay, morning wood is simply when you wake up in the morning, your penis is hard. That simply means your ED, right, is psychological. It's the biggest diagnostic clue that you can get is when you get hard in the morning, it simply means it's good, like you're healthy. You have good levels of testosterone in your body. It's natural to be hard in the morning, okay? And you should be hard in the morning if you're a guy because it indicates good health. According to the Chinese Taoism, traditional medicine, it simply means you have enough energy reserves in your body. If you get morning wood, if you get hard in the morning, but you also have ED during sexual intercourse, that simply means that your ED is related to your psychological condition. It's not physical. So you have to find out a way, which we'll discover, to reduce your stress, ensure you don't have anxiety or depression. Now, third is thyroid issues. So an underactive thyroid or an overactive thyroid in a guy, again, it can also link to ED. Everything in the body is linked. Like these are different aspects of it, but it all comes down to your hormones. And the fourth one is low T, so low testosterone. Now, testosterone is actually like a background player. Like, if you don't have testosterone at the start, it's like fuel, right? If you don't have testosterone at the start, your car won't start anyway. Okay, so if you have low T, you probably don't get morning wood as well, which is why you get ED. Now, that doesn't mean, if you have low T, it doesn't also mean that you will get ED, right? Low T or low testosterone is like a background player. Like it matters, but doesn't matter too much when it comes to ED. Okay, because if you have low testosterone, you're likely to get ED, but you're not confirmed. Like the reason is not confirmed because the reason may be one or two. And in fact, one or two can also give you low T. Okay, so it's not the biggest cause. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because you have stress and anxiety, you're likely to get low T anyway. Okay, your testosterone levels will decrease. Because you have thyroid issues, testosterone levels can decrease anyway. High cholesterol, again, testosterone levels can decrease anyway. The main, if you do have high cholesterol, by the way, atherosclerosis, it's called. If you do have this, you're basically eating the wrong fats. So you need to change your fats, right? If you eat healthier fats, like ghee, like olive oil, like peanut oil, not any seed oils, right? So if you eat those type of healthy fats, you're likely to have an improvement in your testosterone levels. Avocado, almonds, peanuts, etc. You're likely to have an improvement in testosterone because there's a decrease in bad cholesterol in your body because you're eating good cholesterol again. Okay? If you eat fried foods, if you eat bad oils, bad cholesterol, that will decrease the good cholesterol in your body, which is why you get high cholesterol, and hence, because of that, you'll get low T. Because it's all linked. That's what I'm trying to say. Just move this up a little. Medications. So SSRIs, serotonin, serotogenic reuptake inhibitors, which is given in depression, like mood, etc. If you have depression medications, high blood pressure medications, they can also inhibit your hormones and your function in your body that ensure that you get a healthy erection. The final one is neurological damage. A lot of people actually don't consider this one because it's kind of hidden and it's in your past. And sometimes symptoms of ED come later on in the future as the signaling gets weaker. So remember at the start, I explained your erection actually starts in your brain. This is your brain and this is your pelvic nerve. And there's a connection that goes through your spinal cord, right? Now, if there is damage, if you've been in an accident, a car accident, and there's physical trauma, bike accident, etc., and there's physical trauma in your spinal cord, there can be a weakening of the signaling. So neurological damage. This can also cause ED. Now, we'll look at how nature looks at erection, ancient civilizations, how they looked at an erection. If there is an erection in nature, if there is a hydraulic sequence that we discussed earlier in nature, these are the questions that should come to your mind, right? What looks like a penis in nature? So we have the two cylinders, which is corpora cavernosa, and then we have the sponginosum, which is going through like this, through which your pee and urine and sperm goes through. Okay, so these are the mechanisms. Now, moving on to what the penis looks like in nature. Okay, there's a mushroom called stinkhorn mushroom, which essentially looks like an erect penis, as you can see. And we can say phallus for an erection, lack of a better word. And then we have a spongy chambers in corpora cavernosa. We're trying to do nature mimicry over here. Okay, so we're trying to see what in nature looks the same. The cleanup, and then moving on to sperm. So sperm actually looks like it looks like tadpoles when they get born. And tadpoles have, this is also like just an understanding, right? Tadpoles have two lives. They live under the water first, and then they, through metamorphosis, which is a change of environment, change of being, they go and live as a frog. Just understanding like this doesn't have much link to ED, but we're just understanding how nature is and if there's mimicry in nature. Okay? So we have to look at everything in order to find the right and correct puzzle. Metamorphosis actually exists in dragonflies, in butterflies, right? And even snakes, like snakes shed off skin by layer. So it's quite cool that there's creatures in nature which can live two lives on the earth, and then there's also one as a different, like caterpillar as a different being, and then you can fly after that as a butterfly. You know, there's transformation and change in nature. Let's move on to understanding if in nature there is the hydraulic sequence. So relax, expand, hold, and clear up. This is a hydraulic sequence that basically we can try and figure out if this exists in nature, and it does. A pufferfish, if you've seen, they've got like small spikes like this, eyes over here and mouth over here. So pufferfish, they have the same sequence. When there's a threat in the environment, right, there's a threat, they become bigger. They swallow air, water, and they become bigger. They trap, hold, they relax, then trap, expand, then trap and hold. And then when the threat is gone, they essentially clear up. And in fact, in a plant as well, it's the same thing. Plants, if I zoom in over here somewhere, they also have very similar, like we discussed earlier, the cylinders, okay? Very similar structure. This is called stomata. This is guard cells in plants, okay, very small, microscopic guard cells. And essentially what they do is they get filled when there is sunlight, when the plant wakes up, they get filled with water to ensure that there's hydration and there's survival. Very simple understanding, survival. When the sun goes down, there's moonlight, there's darkness, the water gets released, there's a clear up, okay? There's a relaxation expansion for the water to get filled. There's a trap of water during sunlight, hold, and then clear up once the sun sets, okay? Same hydraulic sequence you see in these two main nature mimicry examples. From this understanding, we can understand that this mechanism is designed for threat, for survival, and guess what these two things link to? Sperm, right? An erection is there as a defense mechanism for the sperm to survive. Okay, just same thing in nature. When there is a threat, when there is a survival, that's when this hydraulic sequence happens in nature. Because the pufferfish is trying to survive, it's not trying to die, it ensures that it does that. Same thing with plants. And that's why an erection in nature simply means a defense mechanism for the sperm to survive the acidic environment of the vagina. Moving on to understanding ancient civilizations and how they looked at an erection. Now, I'll tell you a story about Shiva. And mind you, I am a devotee of Shiva. I have huge respect because I was born in the Hindu religion. I have huge respect and adornment for all the gods and the Hindu religion itself. Okay, so I'm not here, like the story I'm going to tell you, and how I'm going to link that to ED, right? It's not to disrespect or shame, or my intention is never to dishonor my religion. Okay, so this is just a disclaimer, because some people will look at like ED, like think about the erection being a vulgar thing. It's actually not. It's a human organ, and it's a mechanism. Sex is one of the greatest cosmic forces, which I'll explain, and that's how ancient civilization looked at it, from a force of creation. The story that I'm going to explain to you, I'm looking at that from an objective level. Okay, it's not that I'm trying to disrespect it. Just a disclaimer. Now, moving on to the story. There was a king known as Bhagirath. Okay, or Bhagirath as English terminology. Bhagirath was a king. He wanted his ancestors to be liberated. Okay, so he had ashes of his ancestors, and he wanted these ashes to be poured into Ganga. Ganga was a holy river that was first known to be, or believed to be, in the cosmic plane or the universe. Like, we're gonna draw. I'm just gonna move this over here. We're gonna draw the cosmic plane. Okay. So just imagine this is the universe, and moon and the sun. So we have the galaxy, right? Now this cosmic plane had Ganga, the holy river. Now Bhagirath, because he lived on Earth, he wanted Ganga to come to Earth, because obviously he's a king, he's a human being, he can't go into the cosmic universe. So he wanted Ganga to come into earth. But there was no channel. Okay, he realized that it's almost impossible to get Ganga into earth, so he meditated to the gods. Okay? He meditated to Brahma. Brahma is known as the god of creation. I'm just going to put B, Brahma. Known as god of creation. He meditated for thousands of years, as per stories, to Brahma to get Ganga onto earth. Now, Brahma said that I can't do that. It's a job of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who stayed in Mount Kailash on earth. Only Lord Shiva could bring the Ganga into earth. And hence, after meditating to Brahma, Brahma told Bhagirath to meditate to Lord Shiva to bring Ganga onto the earth. And so Bhagirath meditated to Shiva. Shiva was impressed by his meditation, so he decided that he would be the gateway through which the Ganga would fall onto the earth. So he stood on the peak of the Himalayas on earth, and then, so just imagine Lord Shiva, and then he has hair, right? He has very long hair through which the Ganga flows. Okay, so he basically takes the load of Ganga onto his head, through his hair, through his thick hair. The Ganga flows down into the earth, and he safely deposits Ganga onto the earth. Imagine the scenario, right? And Ganga is known as one of the most holiest rivers. It's known as the river of life, the force of creation. And mind you, all rivers, in fact, back in civilization were known as a force of creation, okay? A force of life. If you had a river in your colony, in your civilization, it would simply mean that you could grow more crops, you would have food sources, better food supplies, and hence rivers would be seen as a beautiful source of life, of nature's abundant giving. So that is the story of Bhagirath and how Ganga flowed into the earth through Shiva's help, through Shiva being the gateway to that. Now, moving on to other civilizations. In the Egyptian culture, the Nile River, which you can see similar pretty much to Ganga, okay? Because Ganga is also a river, Nile is also a river. Nile River in the Egyptian culture, in Egypt, people dependent on the flow of the Nile River, the flooding of the Nile River once a year to ensure that they had crops, to ensure that they had life in their village. Okay, so they were heavily dependent on once a year of flooding. So flooding, just imagine as an ejaculation, and they believed that it was an ejaculation of god men. God men. Ancient Egyptians, they prayed to god men because god men was known for fertility, for reproduction, for life, okay, power of creation. And if you look at the hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt, God-man is shown always with an erect phallus, with an erect penis. Okay, I'll show you that over here. This is God-man, and as you can see, he's known as god of fertility, harvest, reproduction, and he's always seen as an erect phallus penis. And this is the story of Ganga. As you can see, Lord Shiva, through his help of his hair, he gets the water down into the earth, or the Ganga down into the earth. In ancient Rome and Greece, the phallus as a power of protection. So protection, creation, these are the words that come up. Ancient Taoism, we had vital essence, an erection and physical proof that your Jing is strong and your internal fires are burning brightly. In the Maori culture, we had the prominent phallus, te uri, which simply means the physical manifestation was deeply linked to the power of creation. Okay, raw, masculine, spiritual energy. Now coming back to Lord Shiva, as you can see, even in the ancient Indian culture, you have the phallus, right? And this is the Shiva Ling. It's known as Shiva Ling, okay? Or Shiva Lingam. Shiva Ling or Lingam, okay? So this is an erect phallus. That's what it simply means. And underneath it, we have the yoni, right? And this is Brahma, which is creation. Okay, this is the Yoni, which is Shakti. Yoni is the female reproductive system. That's what it's symbolizing, okay? So we have Shiva, which is the masculine energy, and then we have the Shakti, which is the Yoni energy, and it's basically through a vagina, an erection that is happening, which creates life, which creates energy, right? Cosmic energy, which can turn a small egg into a baby. Okay, that's the power, and into a human, right? That's the power of this Shiva Ling. And this is what is seen in all temples across India. In ancient temples, in fact, you just have the Shiva Ling. And I'll show you over here, right, what it looks like. So as you can see, we have all these types of Shiva Lings, and usually they're covered with a snake, right? So there's a snake over here that guards, or a snake is known as a cosmic carrier or a cosmic gateway. One of the animals is known as a cosmic gateway. And the reason why that is because our DNA, guess what it looks like? It looks like a snake, cosmic serpent. Our Kundalini Shakti, which is studied in the Vedic culture, is when yogis, they meditate for hours. Through their spine, there is energy that travels from the pelvic area into the spine, into the crown chakra, and they become enlightened. Right? There is energy that travels through the spine upwards, just like I explained in erection, how erection starts from the head and it goes down, right? There's energy that travels upwards, cosmic energy, which is why the snake is a symbol of that. Okay, and you see Shiva Lings with snakes. You would always see the dropping, and it's like a vessel, and then you have the Shiva Ling over here with a yoni. Right? And then there's always a dropping of water. And this simply depicts the story of Ganga. Okay, so you have water being dropped on the head of Shiva to depict the story of Ganga, the cosmic river, the life force. Okay? So as you can see, all of this is symbolism to finally understand that Bhagirath had erectile dysfunction. Okay? That is what all this means. This is what we have to kind of inculcate in our minds, that these stories that we hear in the Hindu culture, those stories are metaphors. Those are symbols to understand the human body and how the human body works. And I'll explain to you, it should all connect, like it should all connect in your mind right now. That's what should be happening. You are Shiva, right? You are the masculine energy that has the force of creation within you. Okay, that can be the gateway. Your erect phallus can be the gateway of creation. That's what it is, right? The reason why you have an erection is for the safety of creation, right? The safety of sperm traveling through into the vagina. Survival, safety. And guess what Shiva did? For the good of humanity, life force, liberation, he safely deposits Ganga onto earth. And it's the same mechanism as we discussed earlier, is our erection starts in our mind. And it goes through the spine into the pelvic area, right? And you have an erection. It's the same thing. It's the same story. Bhagirath is just an illusionary, symbolic person who needs help of Shiva, who needs help of an erect phallus. That's the beauty of stories. If you uncode it, you can realize it's linked to human health. Okay, it's linked to human body. As you can see, it's the same story. Your brain is Shiva's head, right? And the energy, which is Ganga, your sperm, it's the cosmic life force, it's the creation. It's traveling through the spine, the hair of Shiva, through your spine, going down into the pelvic area and being safely deposited into earth, into the vagina. And Shiva is the gateway. He is the cosmic gateway, your erection is a gateway of cosmic life and creation. So now, as you can see, all of this is connected, right? This is how we understand an erectile dysfunction. Now let's move on to understanding how we can be Shiva, because that's the issue, right? If you think about the story and you imagine it in your mind, what's happening is in erectile dysfunction, there is no Shiva. There is a deposit of cosmic life onto Earth, but it's unsafe because there is no erection, right? And hence the reason why Shiva was there, the reason why he became the gateway, he stood on the peak of the Himalayas, your head, that is the top. He stood is because if Ganga crashed onto Earth, it would destroy and flood the Earth. Okay? That was the reason why Bhagirath meditated for thousands of years so he could bring Ganga onto Earth to ensure there was a safety deposit of Ganga on Earth. Okay? There was no flooding or destruction. And that's why, because Shiva is a cosmic god, he can travel through different dimensions and planes. He became the gateway. Now, let's move on to understand why you cannot bring Shiva in you, which just simply means why you cannot get erect. That's what it means. Why can't you channel it? It's a life force. It simply means that you're unable to handle the burden of life. You're unable to manage the life chaos that is in your life, or the chaos that is in your life. Okay? You're unable to manage that. And Ganga is flooding onto Earth. It's destroying your life because you cannot channel it. You can't be a gateway. And that is what erectile dysfunction is. When in your life, I'm talking physically now, in this realm, you're living as a human being, you're a man, right? When you feel burdened, when you feel life is too much, when you feel emasculine, like as per society, right? A man is in the mind, it's meant to be a provider, right? And you feel ashamed. Okay, I'll write this down so you can understand. As a man, when you feel shame, and this is very important to understand because this is the code through which not good enough. Okay, this is the code to which you can help ED. This is your code. You feel shameful. You don't feel masculine. You don't feel good enough. You feel you're not worthy, or your life is too much on you. Life is too much. It's a burden. Why is it a burden? Like, that should be the next question. It's a burden because you're trying to meet everyone's expectations. You have family, you have partner, you have friends, and you see yourself in society that you're not good enough, and you're not maintaining you're not maintaining a level of success in your life, or you don't feel successful according to societal expectations, and you feel bad about yourself. That is what burden means. It's because you can't meet societal expectations. Now you should ask yourself a question: why do you need to meet societal expectations? Why is that even important? And this is where your power comes in. Okay, this is where you can cheat ED, right? So when life is too much, when the Ganga is just flowing down onto your earth, it's crashing, it's destroying your life. Imagine a big wave that you can't channel, right? It's like a tsunami. How do you unburden it? How do you channel it? How do you become a gateway? How do you become Shiva? Remember, you are already Shiva. It's just that you've lost your power. Okay? Everybody, as a man, in the Hindu culture, right? Everybody is both the Shiva and the Shakti, right? There is a female energy and a male energy, and there is the sun and the moon within every human being. And we're born either with a penis or a vagina. So when there's a union of the penis and the vagina together, that is the power of creation. And that's what the Hindu culture depicts, cosmic life. It's not anything vulgar. It's not anything bad. Sex is not bad. Because societal expectations have been risen because of consumerism, money, etc., it's all become a burden on you. It's all become, you can't meet the expectations of your parents, you can't meet the expectations of your partner, you can't meet the expectations of your friends, And hence you feel bad about yourself and you don't feel good enough. And you can't handle that pressure. Okay? The pressure of life you are unable to handle, and hence you have EED. Okay? When you have power, you have an erect phallus. This is what all of this understanding comes to. Okay? When you have power, you have an erect phallus. How do you get power? That should be the next question. You get power by saying no. Okay? No. This is your mantra if you have ED, right? You say no to societal expectations. Who cares what people think about you? If you don't feel like doing anything, don't do it. You're not going to be a good person by meeting societal expectations. What does it mean to be a good person? It only means that you're doing your best, whatever you can in your daily life, and that's all that matters. You go to bed feeling fulfilled. That's all that matters. You're putting in your best every single day. You're not compromising on the quality of output in your work, in your relationships, and you're having a balance. That's all that means. That's all you have to do. But because you have people around you that are putting endless of expectations, and guess what? You will never meet those expectations. It's a false narrative, and it's a false hope that you have been given that one day you'll meet expectations, but you won't. You won't, and that's the reality. Because expectations never end. Greed in a human being never ends. So guess what? Once you meet an expectation, let's say you graduate, then there's marriage, then there's children. It just never ends, right? Then there's taking care of the parents, etc., etc. Okay. Taking care of the children have more expectations, whatnot, you know? So life is a never ending of expectations if you let it do that to you. But you can say no. You can say, no, I don't want to live like how you're telling me to live. I'm going to live like how I'm going to live. And that gives you power. It's the most simplest thing, but it's so hard to program in your mind because your mind has been programmed by all the people around you, which are not making you feel good about yourself. Okay, and that should be an indicator, right? If you're not feeling good about yourself, is your partner actually good for you? You know, your partner should be. I know there is a concept of like unconditional love, right? Like if a partner has chosen you and if a partner has agreed to build a life with you, that's what a partner is there for. It's a supportive, a safe, a loving energy. It's not criticism. It's not, you're not good enough. It's none of that, right? You're not doing well in life. Look at other people around you. They're doing so much more. You should take better decisions. And guess what happens? Your mind panics, right? If you have a burden of expectations, your mind will panic. You'll make the wrong decisions and you have the wrong outcomes, which is why you need to meditate like Bhagirath did. He simply did inaction, which is the greatest action that you could do in today's day and age. Doing nothing is anti-system. It's rebellion. It's saying no to action. It's saying no to expectations. When you do that, you become calm. You get power. You get autonomy over your life. You know, you're not afraid of consequences because you know that you have taken the right decision because you had a calm mind. The outcomes become more susceptible, and then you gain momentum, and momentum leads to success. That's the process. It's like you're trying to come out of mud, right? That's what, like, you're in a flood, right? And you're trying to like survive the flood, right? By swimming, and you're panicking, and you're making the wrong decision, and eventually you're going to drown. And you're going to drown in the expectations of people around you. That's what's going to happen, right? But if you want to survive, right? If you want to put your hand up, and if you want to get a life jacket on, right? And you just want to float on the water, that's how you will survive, right? By doing nothing, in fact. Okay? So I know it's like a very weird example of floating on the water, but like you get what I mean, right? Like you have to learn to say no to the responsibilities that are coming onto your life, right? If you don't want to have kids now, you don't have to have kids now. You can have kids later, okay? If you don't want to marry right now, you don't have to marry right now, you know? And if you don't want to do something for your parents right now because the parents are forcing you to do something, you don't have to do that right now. And if your friends are more successful than you and you feel like you're not good enough and they're doing better, it's just everybody's different. You can't compare yourself to... Do you compare yourself to a bird? Do you compare yourself to a fish? Does a fish compare itself to a bird? You know, they're both different, right? If a fish says, oh, I want to be a bird, right, it will never be a bird. It can never be that. And if it says, I'm grateful to be a fish and I'm a fish and I'm going to swim and discover new places, lean into my strengths, that's how you have power. That's how you become successful, by leaning into your strengths, gaining momentum in life, feeling aligned with the universe, and you have a clear mind, calm mind because you meditate, you make better decisions, you get better outcomes, and slowly with time, you become successful. When these feelings disappear, right, it's very important for these feelings to disappear. You have to understand that because Ganga, who's a female, and in fact, there's so much research around how men in relationships, and when women are criticizing men, right, when your partner is criticizing you, when they're burdening you with responsibilities, as a man, you feel emasculine. There's research to prove that. And you have high chances of ED. There's literally research to show that because there's a power, like your partner is much more powerful than you and you're not equal, right? And you feel not good enough, you feel emasculine, you'll get ED. And that's what all of this simply means, right? It all comes to the same circle. You have to say no because you're Lord Shiva and you have the power to bring cosmic intelligence or cosmic creation. You literally have cosmic creation within you. Like you can bring life onto the planet, right? Isn't that crazy? Like if you think about it, how powerful of the sperm in your body is, right? From small to becoming a human being. It's insane. Like that is what power of creation means. That is what Ganga is. That is what the Nile River is. It's the power of creation. And because you're Shiva, right? Because you have this channeling energy within you, that's what these religions depict. And guess what society is trying to do to you? It's trying to hypnotize you. It's trying to make you feel bad about it. That's what Instagram, Facebook, all of these social media are. They are there to put humans down by comparing each other, right? That's not what people did back in ancient civilization. That's why people back in the day lived such long lives, such beautiful lives, because they never worried about all of like, oh, look, my friend bought another car today, or my friend got his house, whatever. Everybody acted according to their nature, and they achieved results according to their nature. They swam if they were a fish. They used to fly if they were a bird. You know, they never compared. Right? There was no expectations. Yes, there is expectation to feed yourself and feed your partner, take care of your partner, right? But that can be done in a natural way, right? Like I explained earlier, momentum. But this is the most important thing. If you understand this concept, if you understand the power of saying no, you can literally help yourself completely. Yes, you can use things like Shilajit, which is wonderful for, it's the Himalayan rock that is purified. It can help ED a lot. Shilajit, saffron, zinc. You can use pine cone extract, okay? L-arginine, right? All these supplements are great and they can help you and support you along the journey of helping yourself. Shilajit makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel confident. That's why it works for ED, because it's just giving you power essentially, right? Energy, okay? And same thing with saffron, same thing with ginseng, etc. You know, all these herbs are there to help you. But if you still feel shameful, right? If you still feel bad about yourself, who you are, you don't feel good enough, you have to say no. You have to get the power back into your hands and tell your partner that it's not good the way you treat me, or it's not good. You can tell your parents as well. You don't have to force me to do anything. I'll do it on my own, and I'll do it in my own time, right? You don't have to burden me. And when you don't feel burdened, the day you don't feel burdened, the day you feel light and relaxed is the day you'll get a healthy erection and you'll have good intercourse. Okay. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next class, which will be on psoriasis.